Oh, that sounded great. Phenomenal.
Thank you.
Love that. Both those songs were great.
Thank you.
Welcome to you and Josh. Good to have you both here. Yeah. I got to ask you, so you're from the South, right? So Tennessee originally, is that where it's from? So when did your interest in music start? Were you, was it people playing it around the house? Did you hear other musicians in your area where you grew up?
Well, I mean, I grew up like in the smack in the middle of between like Memphis and Nashville, off of I-40, in a small town called Jackson, Tennessee. So there was a lot of music going on, kind of regardless of what was happening in the household. And but my parents, they weren't musicians themselves, but they were very much into music. There was always music going on. My mother actually had this theory that if she tapped rhythm, this is like maybe super cheesy, I don't care, but if she tapped rhythm, her biggest thing was like, she's like, I wanted you guys to have rhythm. So she would tap rhythm, and like Prince and Janet Jackson were her favorite things. So I just like envision like my 80s mom like dancing around the house, like banging on her pregnant belly, like tapping rhythm, because that's sort of the picture she paints. So it started very early.
Unfortunately, she did it a little too hard directly onto her.
And here I am. But then music started like very young for me. I have a cousin who is about 6 years older than me, and she and I grew up like sisters, and I wanted to do everything she was doing. So I grew up singing in church from the time I was very young, but then she was always like singing in a choir or singing in a thing or taking a dance class, and I wanted to do all those things. And I was a very high energy child. So my parents were like, go do those things. Get out of here, run yourself, make yourself tired. So I was like always singing. The first song ironically, the first song I ever learned words to, because it was a song that she was singing as part of a tap class she was taking, which was like actually 10 years old, was the song from Sweet Charity, Big Spender.
Yeah.
And that was the first song I ever learned the words to, which is an interesting song for like a 4-year-old to be singing around the house. So there's a long history. And the first time I ever sang on stage, so I started taking piano lessons when I was 6, and my piano teacher was also a voice teacher, and she was like, you should maybe have her like sing, like she's singing, she can sing. And my mom was like, I don't know, she's really young, because I was, and she told my mom about this talent, like local talent competition down the road in Bolivar, Tennessee, and she was like, I'll help her get ready for it if she wants to do it. Ask her about it. I don't know when. And so I did it, and I won the talent competition, which was very funny. But I don't know, like it was always a thing. Like for me, singing, music in general, anything music related, just made me feel like, not even like disappearing. It just made me feel better. Just made me feel a lot better about everything. I mean, I think it probably makes everybody feel that way, right? And that's why it's kind of got that thing about it that transcends everything else.
Yeah, it's a power of music, and the thing that it just gets you through everything, and it's. I think it's the universal language, no matter how you look at it, right? Now you started traveling at a very young age. I mean, and going and just going out on a journey and in adventure and going and living in different places. You were in Los Angeles for a while. You were looking for a band there. What were you doing while you were there?
Well, I wanted to be, so it became clear to me in early high school, and this was partly to do with the fact that, because my proximity to Nashville was pretty close, my mom had like a friend of a friend who was friends with a writer in Nashville. So I would go be a fly on the wall in these writing sessions, and that was sort of early on what helped me understand, like, oh, this is like a job. This is a job you can have. Like, this is a life, a career you can have. Whereas before, I really don't think that had ever registered with me, and I wanted to write songs. And people like Joni Mitchell and Carole King and Aretha Franklin, these amazing women who were brilliant performers but brilliant writers, I was like, it all clicked that they were like writers too. And so I was sort of like, I didn't really know how to go about that. But also personally, I didn't want to just sing country music. And Nashville 15 years ago was a very different place than it is now. And even now it's still the country music capital of the world. Yeah. So just because Jack White's there doesn't mean that's changed. So you know what I mean. So I wanted to leave, and I begged my parents to move me to Los Angeles because I didn't want to live in New York because it was freezing there.
Yeah.
And and so I begged my parents to move me to Los Angeles when I was 15, and they were like, listen, if you do this, 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 and this, we will move you there. And I was like, great. And I'm like that kid. So I did all those things. And then my parents were like, ah!
All of a sudden they had to deliver at
What
that
do we
point,
do?
right?
I was a very determined child. So my mother and I moved there, and I just like would play my songs for anyone who would listen, and would write with anyone who wanted to write with me. And I wound up playing keyboards in a reggae band, and we would only play in like 21 and over establishments. And I was like definitely 16 with X's on my hand, like playing the skank, you know.
Yeah. Well, you ended up going to New York City, right? And
Yes.
you were in Spring Awakening, which is so cool. You know, Duncan's a great guy. And
Yeah.
tell me about how that experience took place.
Josh loves Duncan Sheik.
Yeah.
You know, she runs away. So Spring Awakening was the strangest, most surreal, most wonderful surprise that happened to my life, because I grew up doing theater in like community theater in my hometown. I did some regional theater in Nashville. But by the time I had moved to LA, I was like, I really didn't want to do that, at least not then. So I wound up going on an audition for the show. And at the time, Spring Awakening was just going to be a workshop and an is like a 3-month off-Broadway run in the summer in New York. So I wound up booking the job and moving all the way to New York. I was a senior in high school. And the contract I signed was for exactly that, a workshop in a few months of, you know, a summer in New York. I was like, great, this is awesome. I was so green, and a lot of us were really so green, that it was so hard to like, there was no way that my green little brain like could have ever, even in my wildest dreams, dreamt up what happened. But like, quick timeline is like, I moved there in February of 06. The show opened off Broadway in June of 06. August of 06, we found out we were transferring to Broadway. December of 06, we opened on Broadway. And June of 2007, we won 8 Tony Awards and a Grammy. And we were like kids. We were children. So we were like, we had no idea what was actually going on. I very clearly remember the night of the Tony Awards standing on. So if your show gets nominated, you get to go perform. And we were standing on the stage at Radio City, like there's this huge scrim. Zach Braff's like introing us, and there's this huge scrim that's going on. Lily Cooper did the show with me, like there's 6,000 people that none of us had ever experienced anything like. She just went, oh shit, like literally, as we're about to sing, because it was crazy. It really was. It was crazy. And then like by the end of that year, like Gap approached us to be like the Christmas ad for the Gap, and our faces were in Times Square. Like it was a very strange experience. And like when I do say like, there is no way that you can plan. You can never predict something like that in your mind. Like, and especially because it really happened so quickly, and it was amazing. It was like very transformative too, because we were all between the ages of 15 and 23. So there was all this amazing things going on around us. But then we were also simultaneously like really trying to figure out who we were, what our places were in the world, just in a human way.
Yeah.
And I do think we all survived it because we all actually got along. People still, ask us to that question to this day, and they're like, did you guys actually like each other? It's like, we did. And I think that if we wouldn't have had each other in a companion way, I'm not really sure how we would have survived.
And people would have turned out, right? Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So tell me about making the new album. By the way, like you heard me say it earlier, I love the album title.
Thank you.
I mean, besides the song. So tell me about the process of making this record.
Sure.
Where you did it and who you worked on this with.
So there were a variety of players. The album itself and the genesis and whatnot, at least for the album title, I'll say specifically to the album title, I kind of knew very early on that I wanted to call the album that. What had happened was I had done what I called these word vomits, basically of like my feelings, and we would sort of pull from those, build songs lyrically, and then build the music around them in that way, because I wanted them to be very transparent. I didn't want to try to talk about what my feelings were. I just was going to say what they were straight from the page. And the album title, I kept saying, this is what I want to call it. And Jonathan was like, I'm all for it. You do understand, though, that you're going to have to bleep yourself every day. And I was like, but that's the point. I don't give a shit. And this is what I need the album to be called for me. And he was like, I get it. Let's do it. But it's that part of it has been really funny, finding crafty ways to bleep myself, self-edit. But there's an awesome guy down in Echo Park in LA. His name is Jake Sinclair. He's a bit of a boy wonder. He had a big year last year.
With Panic at the Disco.
Panic at the Disco and Weezer, and he got like a double Grammy nom for producing both of the, like, executive producing both those albums. He's amazing. And I've worked with him on a bunch of different things. We worked on this album, and I was able to just go there, and he was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, these are my feelings, and this is what I want to say. And so we just diligently worked like that, building songs, and more than anything, trying to trust the instinct of what felt the most transparent or the most honest, not like what sounded the best or what sounded the hookiest, or, we didn't write songs from that perspective. And then we got to include some fun people. Patrick Stump from Fall Out Boy helped me write a song on the album. Mike Viola helped write a couple of songs on the album, jump in with us. So being able to work with people who do really write from that perspective too, just want to tell a story, but tell a story that feels real to the person trying to just convey the story, tell the story. And that was a lot of fun, and it was very quick. We did it. We've been on the road for a long time. A little over a year and a half.
Yeah.
So we had dates in December, and then we had dates in February. So we had January 2016 to kind of get ourselves together. So we did 3 weeks of concentrated writing, and then I went back on the road, and they cut the whole thing live, like with a band, and then he helped me sing all of the songs in New York, and then we used technology to go like that. But it was an interesting way to make a record, and I was genuinely nervous because after we had done all the writing, it was like, oh my God, I have to go back out on the road. It's not that I didn't trust Jake. I was just kind of like, shouldn't I be in the room for this? Like, well, I don't know. And but what was nice was all of the bare bones I was able to put together, and then they were sort of able to play on top of that, and then anything else that needed doing. But I don't know, it's fun. We made the record. What I wanted the album to be about was the words, the lyrics. So we took a reverse approach to the production, where the production wasn't the focal point. The words and the voice conveying the words was front and center, and then everything else sort of fell behind that. So it felt good. Felt like I was making something that represented me, because I think really probably at the end of the day, I like all kinds of music and I listen to everything, but I think at my core, I'm a singer-songwriter.
Yeah.
So it felt good to make something that represented that.
Yeah, that's great. Well, it came out amazingly. So would you be kind enough to do a couple more songs for us, guys?
Sure.
We would love that. All right, everybody, let's hear it right now for LOLO.